So, but yeah, I mean, one of the even better things is if you search instructions to offeror, which is the primary way the government wants you to submit a bid. You search that on YouTube. I own the entire first page. I'm killing it right now.
Very good.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, it's obviously the more my clients win contracts, the more they talk about my videos and share them, and they just get more and more popular. It's crazy.
That's phenomenal, John. That's phenomenal. So
thank you.
Thank you for, I'm not sure if, is John on the line? Because I don't know. He didn't.
I've got you and Roger.
Okay, so it's Roger, Roger and Tiffany and Rafiko. Okay, I'm not sure if John can. He may pop on. John Palacios. He may pop on. But so what we wanted to kind of just, and I know, John, we've had a multitude of conversations, kind of going back and forth, but we've had an opportunity to really just kind of assess some of our needs, and I wanted to circle back with you in regards to some of those needs to see what type of solutions you may be able to provide. So we're looking for some help in maybe about three kind of areas. One specifically around forecasting. So we want to be able to really kind of go out and start planning and know what jobs we're going to be bidding on now. So it being, December going into January, come January, I want to be able to know exactly, what jobs we're going to be bidding on come May, June, so forth and so on. Secondly, we wanted to also see if we can enlist some assistance as far as pricing is concerned. I'm starting to think that especially with with our 8A certification and things of that nature, I'm starting to think a lot of times we could maybe win or lose based off our pricing. So I want to just kind of firm it up and make it a lot more of a science per se. As far as our pricing is concerned, so really just kind of get a clear understanding and get our arms around the best way, the best strategy, and really more or less what we can get away with as far as pricing is concerned. And then lastly, we were looking for a group to be able to kind of serve as like a QA or a second set of eyes, so to speak. So when we have recognized an opportunity and responded to it, having somebody to be able to kind of go over it and just kind of maybe polish it up, fine-tune it, just really kind of make sure that it's well poised for success. So we wanted to just kind of talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you might be able to provide in that manner.
Excellent, excellent. And it looks like John joined us. John, can you hear me okay? John, can you hear us? You might not be dialed into the audio yet.
Okay.
I can message him real quick. Well, let me do this.
You have any luck with it? Magical, we did, or IE2, whatever the hell the name of that something is.
I'll just leave this up here on the top so you can see that and get in on the audio. Okay.
Okay.
Now you remember last time we talked, I showed you biochem testing, which is a client of mine, and what they did with their 8A program. I mean, they've done almost 750 contracts now,
Okay.
And Mukesh has been with me since 2014. They're killing it. And there's three primary reasons. Knowing how to use the system, being registered properly, and having someone like me on your team when you have a question or you need help with a bid or you don't know what the government's looking for you to submit with your bid. Being able to reach out to me and have someone like me on your team, and even on the larger contracts, you have access to me to actually write proposals for you. So, that's really the bottom line. If you look at a few things, let me go through and show you how the set-asides work and why they're important. Okay, now currently in SAM, these numbers have gone down a little bit. I did a search yesterday and there's only about 320,000 active businesses. But just for argument's sake, this is back 2015. They're still pretty close. They've only get plus or minus maybe 10,000, 20,000. There's 1.2 million for-profit vendors in SAM. SAM is the system for award management. It's the government's primary payment system. Over 900,000 of those are inactive. So out of that 320,000 for-profit vendors that are active, more than half of those are the Raytheons and IBMs of the world. But let's just say, for argument's sake, half are big, half are small. That's only about 160,000 active small businesses that are able to sell to the government right now. 160,000 sounds like a lot, but when you figure there's almost 30 million small businesses in the United States, 160,000 is less than 0.1%. That's very little competition, okay? And out of those 160,000 small businesses that are active, we've processed 80,000 SAM registrations. So we're technically responsible for half the small businesses that are active in the system right now, and there's no guarantee the other half are compliant even though they're active. The reason why I say that is because being active and being compliant is two totally separate things. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to go to SAM. And we're going to pull up a random business. Give me a name of a business, anything, shoelaces or popcorn or something, just random.
MSL Analytical. EMSL? Yeah, Analytical. There you go.
All right, so we're just going to pick the first one that comes up, Waypoint. Okay. They are active. They have no active exclusions. They have no federal debt showing up. Some of these guys will, and it's a lot of times that's just a mistake the government made when they processed it, but they don't know it. So we're going to check these guys right here. We're going to go to View Details. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, I'm getting over a cold.
No problem.
Okay. So these guys are registered for all awards. They're active, and they don't expire until they just renewed this yesterday. Okay? We're going to go to their entity registration. And I'm looking for a couple of things. They have their website listed. That's good. I can tell just by what they've got listed here that they're probably a successful government contractor. But there's one major issue. The new system has a different way to sign off on the documentation. No one's actually signed this SAM. You see that? It says, I've read each of the FAR the certification I, comma, supposed to be a person's name there, comma, I'm attesting to accuracy, blah, blah, blah. They're active, but they're not compliant because they missed a new step in the process. They're missing a few POCs. These are things that make it more difficult for a purchasing agent to buy from them because there's mistakes, there's discrepancies. So even though they're active doesn't mean they're fully compliant. And last contract they won was back in 2011. So they're not keeping up on their compliance. SAM is used for purchasing agents, for government agencies to get their funding. So just because you're active in the system doesn't mean you're active for what you're trying to accomplish, all right? So this is the first main reason why people fail. It's not being registered properly to begin with. And in addition to SAM, which is just the basic registration, you've also got all the other set-asides. So you've got the small business set-aside, you got the minority set-aside, woman, veteran, service-disabled veteran, 8A, HUBZONE. And these are all set-asides that can be taken advantage of if you know how to get registered properly and utilize them properly. You're a w.o.s.b, right? You're woman-owned?
Yeah, we're woman-owned and 8A.
So you do currently have your 8A?
Yes.
Okay. And you've registered as a w.o.s.b?
Yes.
Do you know your DUNS number, your cage code?
Yeah, I have it.
It's 5EZY5.
5EZY5. 5EZY5, like that. Rotundo, Wyrick?
What you say?
That's not it.
No, that's not it. Hold on. Let me verify that for you. Hold on. The cage is 5ZZY5.
5ZZY5, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're showing you got a delinquent federal debt.
Hey, you know what, John? What's that? Because I actually called about that, and they said that was actually going to be removed. That was something old.
Yeah, it could simply be a mistake. SAM's not a government agency. SAM's a database, and it's not run by a government agency. It's run by the Federal Service Desk, which has been outsourced to a private for-profit. So these guys are the ones that process you in the system. They hold the contract with the government to maintain and update this database. They spent more money on this database than they've spent on Obamacare, all right? I'm going to do view details. And I'm going to go into your entity registration. So your partner, who's a female, is also African American?
That is affirmative.
Excellent. Okay, we need to get someone to sign off on this because right now you're not compliant. We need to update your POCs. We need to get that federal debt removed. We need to specify your service area.
I'm sorry, that.
I need to see if you're compliant in the dsbs.
What's that acronym for?
Dynamic small business search. Remember those simplified acquisition, those
Oh,
no bid
oh, oh.
contracts I was telling you about?
Yes, yeah.
That's
I
what
believe
they
we
use
are
the
registered in that.
They use the dsbs to find you for those simplified acquisitions,
Understood.
those no bid contracts. And if they can't find it, it's the only database where they can search you by keyword.
Mm-hmm.
So who processed your 8A?
I did.
How many hours do you think it took?
It took some time.
I get people all the time that think they're saving money by doing it on their own. And they invest so many hours doing it and they don't do it right. So you're not compliant in the dsbs. You got no principals listed. That's you have to have your principals listed, period. You got your 8A in here. You don't have any non-federal government certifications, no special equipment materials, no types percentages. You got your keywords, that's good. You got no past performance. It looks like you're a startup, like you've never done any business at all. And you got no quality assurance standards. So your 8A is going to do you probably nothing without being properly registered in the dsbs and in SAM and all those other systems. Now the simplified acquisitions.
Okay, now,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, so they wouldn't necessarily need that information to award a contract, though, correct?
Well, if you want to get hired for simplified acquisitions, yeah, they're definitely going to need that. And if you want to be hired for your 8A, if you want to be hired for your 8A, you need to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, because when it comes time to be audited for your 8A and you don't have your ducks in a row, they will find the hell out of you for not staying compliant and doing the right thing. You know what I mean? 8A is a serious program.
Gotcha. So
I mean,
we've actually been awarded a contract in the past. So that past performance should just be updated on the DMV, correct?
No, you need it updated in the dsbs.
That's what I meant, the dsbs. Okay.
Right. I mean, look at it this way. All right, your 8A, you get the same 5% set aside with your 8A that you do as a woman, right? Women get the same 5% that 8As get. But as a WOSB, you got 70,000 women you're sharing that 5% with, okay? That's a lot of competition you got to share that with. Your 8A, you've only got 5,300 8As worldwide that are sharing that 5%. So most 8A contracts are done as a sole source or a single source. They're a type of simplified acquisition, okay? Let's go to FPDS, and I'm going to show you what that means. I'm looking for one over 25,000. 25,800. Let's look at that one. This was awarded to a DBA. This isn't even a legitimate, I mean, I shouldn't say legitimate. They're a legitimate business, but they're registered as a DBA, as a doing business as, okay? So she's working, or Rudolph is working under his Social Security number with the government. He's got one employee. He did less than 100,000 of revenues last year, okay? The government awarded him one contract for over 100,000. They gave him one contract that's worth more than what he made last year for the entire year. And they paid him $25,000 up front.
Oh, sweet.
This was done as a simplified acquisition. And because the rule of two is no longer mandatory, look at how many offers received. There was no competition. All right? That's a simplified acquisition. Most 8As are done as simplified acquisition. So we go 8A and search. Okay? This company's 3 employees, $300,000 in revenues. They got an 8A. They're DOT certified. They're minority black veteran owned. This contract's through 2018, and it's for $335,000 they'll collect by the time they finish this. They were paid $57,000 up front, and they'll be paid in increments until this contract's completed.
Yeah, not bad.
They only did $300,000 in revenues last year. Government gave them 1 contract worth more than they did last year total. This wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. It's too risky. Given a contract or a contract that's bigger than their previous year's revenues, that's too risky. But in the past, they weren't prepaying. So that small business probably couldn't afford to do a $300,000 contract for 1 contract. That's what they did the entire year. But because they're paying them up front, they're giving them working capital to do the job. And you're going to see this a lot.
Wow, John, I want those type of jobs, John.
$1,700,000,000. This one's too old. It's not going to show us any details. Okay, this was done as full and open competition. There was only 5 offers received. Or to do a company that only did $40 million in revenues last year. It's a $1,636,000,000 contract, and they were given $500 million up front.
Wow. So basically, when they kind of give the money, give an advance on the contract, that's typically just for those single, not, was it sole source, what's it called?
The ones that you're going to see where they're actually paid up front, those are going to be either simplified acquisitions or some type of set aside.
Simplified.
So if you were looking at just a regular contract, for example, see all these $0 amounts? That means they were not paid up front. Okay, let's look at this one because it's over $25,000. For water testing, this was put out for bid, full and open competition. There was 11 bidders on it.
And of those 11, how many were 8A? Can we tell that?
No, won't show us. And there's no notes in the system that's going to tell us anything. All it says is water testing. But this wasn't an 8A set aside. This was just a regular contract. Okay, if we do testing 8A, this is for inspection and testing services. It was a sole source 8A, 1 offer received. You're going to see that a lot on the 8As. There's rarely more than 1 offer because they don't have to get 2 offers anymore. It's no longer mandatory. They changed that back in 2012. Right here, this letter is from Obama. Went out to all the purchasing and procurement agents back June 6, 2012. Rule of 2, right here. If the rule of two cannot be met, if there is not a reasonable expectation of obtaining officers from two or more responsible small business concerns that are competitive in terms of market price. However, third-party analysis of the data in the federal data system suggests a significant amount of work on the SAT program not doing the small business includers. So what they're saying is they don't have to get a second quote anymore as long as they go to FPDS and they compare your quote with what they've paid in the past for a similar service. They can hire you without putting it out for bid and without getting a second quote. Right? What this really boils down to, and this really isn't a cliche, because when my grandpa told me this, it didn't make sense at the time, but now that I'm older, it makes perfect sense. My grandpa said, look, you can make excuses or you can make money, but you're never going to make both. So what's your goal at this point? What are you guys trying to accomplish?
Well, obviously, we want to increase our government contracting activity. So around forecasting, pricing, and QA, John, what can you guys do?
Well, the first thing we need to do is get a case manager on your file and make sure you guys are properly registered. You've got discrepancies in your SAM. We need to fix that. Your 8A, it's kind of hard to excuse my French, it's kind of hard to screw up an 8A, because if you're active in the 8A program, you know, there's really not much around that. You went through the process, you know how difficult it was. They don't tell you when you make a mistake, they just deny it and you got to reprocess it. This is what we're looking at minimum. I closed it. All right, you definitely need to get set up for simplified acquisitions. That's a no-brainer. Having access, purchasing agents having access to you to be able to hire from you or buy from you without going out to bid. Just FEMA, for example. Anytime there's a disaster, FEMA has to do testing. And they're going to reach out to contractors that are compliant for simplified acquisitions, because FEMA they don't put stuff out for bid anymore. You remember during Katrina, all those people that said, you know, our government left us for dead and we were stuck on this bridge for a week and our government doesn't care. That's not the truth. I know the truth from the inside, because what happened is back then FEMA was still putting stuff out for bid. So you have a disaster in an area, and then FEMA has to reach out to contractors and say, hey, give us a quote. It takes a day or two for these contractors to put a quote together and submit it. It takes FEMA a day or two to review the quote and choose a vendor. It takes that vendor a day or two to gas up their vehicles and load up their equipment, physically drive there. And then, yeah, that's 5-6 days right there. That's exactly what happened in Katrina. Well, FEMA doesn't do that anymore. In order to prevent that, most of what they do now is done as a simplified acquisition, where they can just call you or email you and ask you for a quote. If your price is fair, they can hire you without putting it out for bid. They don't have to have a second quote, and they can prepay to give you the working capital to do the job. So simplified acquisitions, no-brainer. That needs to be done. Secondly, your case manager needs to go through and fix your SAM. We need to go through and make sure your w.o.s.b and your 8A are done properly. There's no sense having them if they're not done properly. Have you guys checked to see if you're in a hub zone?
Yeah, I'm in the hub zone.
You are?
Yep.
Have you processed that?
Not as of yet. I mean, it's on our radar, but we haven't as of yet.
HUBZone is just as important as 8A because of the lack of competition. It's only 3%, which doesn't sound like a lot. You know, I mean, 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but you're talking 3% of the entire federal budget is guaranteed. And this number is actually incorrect. They kicked another 600 people out of this program for not keeping their paperwork compliant. So you're talking 3% of the entire federal budget is supposed to be guaranteed to 3,500 vendors worldwide. HUBZone's the same thing as the 8A. They're not going to put it out for bid. Now, this system only tracks less than 10% of the total spending, so it's showing 1,161,000 contracts that have been awarded to HUBZone vendors. If this is less than 10% of the spending, then that means that's closer to 10 million that have been awarded. And if we go by date signed and we look at one over 25,000, it was put out for bid. It says there was 10 offers. I doubt that. That's probably a typo. Let's go back and look at another one, because I haven't seen 10 offers on a HUBZone since I've been here. That was put out for bid too. That's unusual. So that was put out for bid. HUBZone set aside. Actually, it wasn't a HUBZone set aside, but it was awarded to a HUBZone vendor. There was only 2 offers received. You get the gist though.
Yeah.
So we need to get you guys compliant for simplified acquisitions. We need to process your HUBZone. Need to make sure your 8A and your w.o.s.b are done properly. And you guys need to start submitting as many bids as possible. And, you know, I provide the bid assistance training every day from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. You got 1 hour every day. You've got access to me for free to go through bids together. After you win a few and you see that this is obviously, you know, viant, and you want to work on some big ones, some multi-million-dollar contracts, you can pay me and I'll write them for you. You know, but let's win a couple first. Let's see that this is a viable system.
Roger, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm interested in the simplified acquisition. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.